Hello and welcome to Township Talk. I'm Brady McHale. As you may know, it takes a lot of people to run Lower Merion Township. There's a fire department, police department, public works, sewers, zoning, library, all of the parks, refuse, streetlights, and traffic signals, and that's just to mention a few things. So who oversees and manages all these departments? Well, the township manager, of course, but he can't do it all himself. That's where the assistant township manager comes in. Brandon Ford is Lower Merion's assistant township manager, and we are lucky enough to have him here with us today. Welcome, Brandon. It's nice to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're a newcomer to Lower Merion Township. How long have you been here?
About 10 months now.
And so far, getting into your role, which we're going to talk about in a moment, how has it been? How have you been welcomed into the Lower Merion family?
I've been loving every minute of it. You know, it's been 10 months of not looking back and really embracing the organization and getting to know the people and the projects really well.
And there's a bunch of projects going on in Lower Merion Township. It's what makes it such a great place.
Absolutely.
But your job specifically as the assistant township manager, can you kind of delve into that? Tell us what maybe a day in the life of Brandon Ford is like?
Well, that's a tough question to ask. We all know what a township manager does, right? Township manager is the chief administrative officer. He's the boss, right? The role of the assistant manager mirrors that of the township manager, but with the assistant in front of it, right? So I assist the manager in overseeing everyone. I'm the co-captain. I'm the Robin to his Batman, right? The manager and I work together to ensure that the services that we deliver to the public are of the quality and the expectation of our board as well as the residents, and making sure that the inner workings of the township are working and chiming away.
And is this something that you always wanted to do? Did you always want to get into municipal government?
No, this is actually my second career. Before I was in local government, I was a teacher. So I went from teaching government to actually doing government, which has been a really fun transition. This is going to be my 9th year in local government, so kind of looking back on my time from teaching it to actually living it has been a really fascinating kind of turning the subject on its head, right?
So that's interesting. You taught history or in social studies. I'm sure you're very familiar with U.S. history. Isn't it amazing, or do you see the parallels when you're at work every day regarding what happened hundreds of years ago and today, how we still, our Constitution and everything? Isn't it amazing in local government how there's so many parallels? Do you see that often?
I do. A lot of the issues, a lot of the challenges that we see at the local government, or we just see in society in general, are often repeats of the past, right? It's just the names change and the different contexts change, but at the end of the day, there are these issues that are just fundamental. Housing, security. Context change, but they're all the same issues.
And what was the drive to come to Lower Merion? I mean, I know there's an allure of working in Lower Merion Township, but if you were on the job hunt or it just popped up, what said, that seems like a place I want to work?
Well, prior to my employment here, I was assistant township manager in another community, okay. And I was not looking. I was not actively looking, but when the opportunity arose here in Lower Merion, I saw it as it called to me. It was a unique opportunity. Lower Merion is well regarded. It's prestigious among the manager community and among the municipal community. And just through reputation and my interaction from the outside the organization, I know that the senior staff, the people here that work for Lower Merion Township, and the leadership, including the township manager, are top notch. So I would say the staff, as well as the organization itself, is the appeal. They were the appeal.
That's a phenomenal answer. And I enjoy hearing that.
And that was my answer on the interview too. So,
could you give us a brief kind of overview of the typical day as the assistant township manager?
Sure. So I'll have the disclaimer that no 2 days are the same, right? The assistant township manager is a jack of all trades. So one day I could be working exclusively with the HR director on personnel issues. As viewers may be aware, we are looking for a new police chief police superintendent. So a lot of my time has been devoted working with the consultant that the township has worked with to find ideal candidates to be our new superintendent. We do have other senior staff vacancies that will be coming up due to retirements. So a lot of my time is working with HR lately, but I've also worked with Public Works, dealing with infrastructure issues, township engineer, building and planning department, Director Leswing and his team in terms of some of the plans. I know one of the things that I sit on the steering committee for the redesign of Schaffel Plaza in downtown Ardmore.
Which is fascinating. If you don't mind, could you give our viewers an update on that? I know there was a meeting last week.
Yeah, so without giving up too many spoilers, the township did contract with a design consultant. They did solicit feedback from a survey that went out to the community, and they developed a couple preliminary designs that the steering committee got to see and provide feedback on.
I know there's a concern on parking if there is renovation of the park there. Is there plans to have another municipal lot somewhere else close by?
Well, currently, we're going into the whole redesign process and understanding that there's going to be a need for parking, right? And trying to address both those counter needs of parking and this desire for a central, civic space in downtown Ardmore. So, both of those thoughts are reflected in our conversations in the ultimate design.
And Chris was on the show, and we were discussing different development that's going on around the township. And one thing that he really hit on was accessibility and the mobility of the township. And I think something like that in Schaffel Plaza is going to be fantastic for the community. But certainly there's a couple of detractors out there. Probably going to have some difficult conversations. And speaking of difficult conversations, I think in your position, that probably happens a lot. Are you ever confronted by residents or maybe at the board level where there's something that the community disagrees with and you kind of have to smooth that over? I'm sure that's a part of your job where you have to wear many hats and kind of look at things from both sides, as both the government but also, hey, resident, live here, I want to enjoy this.
Absolutely. That's kind of one of the toughest parts of the job, is especially with local government, regardless of what you're working on, there's going to be a multitude of different opinions and viewpoints on a particular issue, and part of my job and part of the job of management and staff, to a certain extent, is kind of bridging those gaps, kind of finding consensus among different opinions, and that's where I think I pull a lot from my previous career and as an educator.
Sure.
Having to deal with a classroom of 30 students and kind of trying to find consensus and kind of
the communicate with all different levels.
Communication is so key, right? And I'm a parent of 3, so communication and conflict resolution is a daily occurrence in my life. So I draw on both my personal and my past experience as well as my other municipal experience in terms of, kind of hearing people's viewpoints and kind of diving deep and hearing exactly what is the actual problem, what's the crux of the issue, and trying to bridge that gap.
Interesting that you say that. Obviously, you're coming from academia and now in local government. But you deal with the police chief, you deal with the public works director, and the director of libraries, but you don't have a background in all of that. So
No.
when they come to you with ideas or projects, how does that work? Do you kind of say, well, you're the expert, in this field. How about you give me the recommendations? How does that work? Because it all has to get passed through yourself and Mr. McNeely's office.
Yes. So that's another part of the job, right? Whether it's through agenda items or just proposals that they would like to start working on, is that they submit ideas to us, and I do rely on their expertise, but I ask a lot of questions and I do my own research, right? So although I rely on their expertise, I ask questions and I actually look into the issue, so I develop an understanding myself so I can make an informed decision.
Now, I understand that you're really into economic sustainability. That's kind of your niche.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk a little bit about that? I know They had prepped me with some information.
I'm a little bit of a greenie. So I work with our sustainability manager and provide a little bit of a guiding hand in some of the really cool projects that she's working on in terms of the solar projects, her sustainability ambassadors initiative. I'm a strong proponent of those types of initiatives, and I think education, again, is key. And the more we can educate not only our staff but also the community about practical means that we could live in a more sustainable community is for the best of all of us. And in terms of the economic development, I do get involved. I've been spending a lot of time with building and planning. Economic and community development are passions. I have 2 masters, one in public administration that helps me do the management side of things, but I also have a secondary master's because I'm a glutton for punishment and a true just lifelong learner in community development. So I find the whole process of development within a community and of the community fascinating. Like the Ardmore Schaffel Plaza project. When that's complete, regardless of the final product, it's going to be a transformative change for that entire area.
It truly is, and I think this is a great place for us to pause. We're going to learn a little bit more about Brandon when we get back, but unfortunately we do have to take a quick break. Stick around, there's much more to learn. I'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Township Talk. I'm Brady McHale, and I'm here today with Brandon Ford, the Assistant Township Manager for Lower Merion Township. Before we dive back into discussing your job, let's learn a little bit more about you. Where did you go to school? I know you mentioned that you have two master's degrees.
Yeah, so I did my undergrad at Penn State, so I was in State College for 4 years. And my second master's, I got my first master's at Villanova down the street, and my second master's, I went back to Penn State.
That's very impressive that you have 2, but as we discussed in the first half, it's something that you're obviously putting to use here in Lower Merion. And did you grow up in the area?
I did not. I'm originally from Northeast Pennsylvania, from a little town outside Scranton, so I'm from coal country.
Oh, very, very interesting. And we didn't touch on this too much in the beginning, but have you always been interested in public service and working for communities?
Public service, yes. As I shared in the first part, I was a teacher, so I've always had that draw, to better, the community. Originally through, educating the youth, and now, by working with local government and making a difference in terms of all the services we provide.
And you and all of Township staff truly are. But I got to ask you, how do you have spare time? You're so busy. do you get time to put your feet up?
My work phone does live with me, so I'll have it within arm's reach at most of the times, and I'm whenever I have a couple seconds between the kids getting ready for bed and whatnot, I'll usually check my emails. But I do believe that time management and work-life balance is important, right?
Very important.
So even though during the week I do carve out time for the wife and kids, especially when I get home, and in that between me getting home and dinner time and bedtime, and then of course spending time with the wife. But it's all about time management and finding that balance, which is honestly different for everyone.
And what are some hobbies? Are you do you enjoy reading, or do you play sport? Any hobbies?
So I do enjoy reading. I'm always I'm a big local government nerd, so it's usually
the 2 masters gave that away.
Yeah, so I do have a little library at home, but honestly I do love getting out. Especially when it's nice out with the wife and kids. We have a tradition that when it starts getting warm out, we'll hit a trail every weekend, and we'll make our way across the entire region, and we'll just spend the day just walking on trails in different parks.
Oh, that's neat. Do you have a favorite trail around here? Anything in like the Valley Forge area or
So
Hawk Mountain? I know is close
I
by.
do enjoy the ones in Valley Forge Park. You know, the one right along the river is my favorite there. But one of my favorites was actually as I was getting ready to start this job. You know, I convinced my wife and kids to do the trail at Rolling Hill Park.
Very challenging,
Yeah,
but
very
also
challenging.
bucolic. I mean, gorgeous.
Oh, it was phenomenal, and that's kind of when I started falling in love with the community itself, right? You know, as I was saying before, you know, Lower Merion has such a prestige, but actually being in the community, now working for the community, and you know, really kind of exploring and getting to know the community better, you know, there's lots of reasons to love Lower Merion.
That's great, and it's so important that you have that reset button, you know, out there in nature, enjoying yourself, because we do know that you have a lot of work here, and not, you know, you're getting a lot of work done as well. So getting back to your job here, what would you say are some of the challenges? You don't have to, you know, give us all the secrets, but you know, there are some challenges to, you know, working in, you know, to maintaining that prestige that you talk about here in Lower Merion Township. How do you do it?
Well, you know, I take a hands-on approach to a lot of things, right? I'm very proactive. I keep my ear to the ground. I'm constantly touching base with the senior staff, you know, checking in on how different projects that I'm not directly involved in, how they're going, and just kind of keeping a pulse, not only for my own benefit, but also for the benefit of the township manager.
Before we started here this morning, you actually said something that I found interesting. You said face-to-face communication, how important it is to that human interaction of talking. Do you go around to your senior staff's offices, or is everything through email?
I do. When I started, I told senior staff I have a tendency to get lost in their departments. You know, so I will, you know, I don't get out as often as I would in smaller organizations that, you know, I've worked in the past. But I do go down to the different departments, and I have face-to-face communications, not only with senior staff, but also rank and file. So, you know, I truly believe that that personal face-to-face interaction is crucial, not only to build that relationship and rapport, but also to establish, you know, just a clear line of communication.
That's great. Is there any ways that residents can help? You know, we talked about the load that you carry, as well as all of, you know, your executive staff. Is there other ways that the residents can get involved, whether it's through civic associations or different boards? Are there any vacancies that you're aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that was one of the interesting things that I've learned about Lower Merion, is that there's just so many opportunities for average day residents to get involved, right? Lower Merion has, you know, a lot of civic associations representing the different geographic areas of the township that are very involved, right? You know, in all the good ways, right? You know, having such a you know, structure to voice the concerns and the opinions of residents is so fundamental from a civics aspect of it, right? Because I can say in other communities that I've worked with, that doesn't exist.
Do you get out to many of those meetings, the civic association meetings?
Not as often as I would like, but I have attended, and I have spoken with several of the civics, including the Federation of the Civics.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing, yeah.
So, other than, do you know if there's any vacancies? I'm sorry, I just want to touch. Are there any vacancies on any boards presently?
We're always looking for applicants, right? So, you know, the one thing that I would encourage residents and viewers is that, you know, you don't wait for a vacancy to come up. If you're interested, you know, submit your materials and say you're interested, and tell us, you know, why you think you would be an asset for one board or another.
Well, and we can also push folks to our website.
Yep.
And they can see some of the vacancies on
Absolutely.
there as well. So I ask a question on Township Talk every time that I have someone sit down, and you can pick anything. But what is your favorite part about Lower Merion Township? It can be a park, it could be an event that's held, a special location, in particular street. What is yours, Mr. Ford?
So I'm going to say the people, right? You know, not only the residents, but also the commissioners and our senior staff, right? When I was interviewing for this job 10 odd months ago, right, one of the stages was that I interviewed with all of our senior staff. Like, it was a big U And I had about a 2-hour interview just getting to know the senior staff.
How do you handle an interview like that? I know you were really scared to come on Township Talk today. I can't imagine sitting in front of 13 people.
It was daunting. Yeah, it was daunting, but it's just like the communication and the talk that we're having right now, right? It's just to a greater scale and greater extent, where you're not having one conversation with one person, you're having several conversations with 13 people who are in the same room.
And it goes back to, we touched on earlier, everyone having their different, slices of the pie, but you need to know a little bit about each of those ingredients. Yeah. So what research do you do when you go into a large interview like that? How do you get to know Lower Merion Township? Did you come and visit? What type of research did you do?
I did a little bit of all of the above. As I was mentioned earlier, when I was getting ready to join the team, I took my family and we explored the township a little bit. We went into the parks. We learned a little bit about the parks. I've done a couple of different drive-throughs, kind of getting ready, and then just a lot of reading. Right, I put my library aside for the weeks and months that I was preparing and getting ready for this position to learn more and dive deep into the different plans, the comp plan, the Ardmore master plan, and just getting to really know about the community and what the township values and what the board values in the organization.
Brandon, it seems like you are fitting in so well here, and it's great to have you as a part of the executive staff. Sadly, though, we are out of time, and I want to thank you for taking your time to speak with us here today on Township Talk. This has been great.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I really learned a lot about you and as well as the township. Thank you at home for joining us today. Remember, if you have any questions about Lower Merion Township, you can find the answers on the township website, lowermerion.org. I'm Brady McHale. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.